Do you remember the future?
You've got to come back with me.
Where?
Back to the future.
Are we back?
We're back.
What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're gonna be able to see our wedding.
Wow. The future. I gotta check this out, Doc.
Look what happened to your son.
He's a complete wimp.
Don't talk to anyone. You've been looking, Bob.
Hey, look!
Don't touch anything.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
And try not to look at anything. I didn't invent the time machine to win at gambling.
I can't lose.
I invented a time machine to travel through time.
Hey, Doc, I'm all for that. What's wrong with making a few bucks on the side?
Now,
The time continuum has been disrupted, creating an alternate 1985.
there have been a few changes.
It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
But they'll all be back.
Eat less, slackers!
Biff?
Hello? Hello? Anybody home?
Well, it can't be you. You're so big.
Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd. Michael J. Fox.
More like a couple of teenagers, you know?
And Michael J. Fox.
Mom, is that you?
Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film, Back to the Future, Part 2. Coming November 22nd to theaters everywhere.
Are we back?
We're back. Everybody, guess what I'm doing again? Watching one movie and podcasting about it. Every day in March, it's Back to the Future 2. So listen each day, or at least try, as I bring you year 2 of Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. Oh, Marchy McFly. It's Marchy McFly. Welcome back, everybody. It's day 2 of year 2 of Marchy McFly. I'm workshopping that original theme song. Folks, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be talking once again about Back to the Future 2. I took some notes today. I have some things I want to talk about. I really want to focus on kind of one section of the movie, more, really towards the beginning. But the one thing that kind of just threw me for a loop is, last year I think I opened the series with the trailer, the original Back to the Future trailer. And this time around, I decided to save it for today. I don't know. I just wanted the first thing to be, for you to hear yesterday was just the little diddly-dee from the beginning of Back to the Future 2. And then the little edit of We're Back, and just kind of right into the show. Where this feels a little more like what we did last year, with a little trailer or some kind of video at the beginning, then my beautiful singing voice, and then just utter nonsense commences. But watching that trailer, all these years, I don't know if it's just like one of those Mandela effects where I just thought it was this, but I just thought that I saw Back to the Future 2 during the summer. And that's clearly not the case, because this movie came out November 22nd, 1989. Young Mikey was only 13 years old. He was in the 8th grade, and he was not quite, still in the 8th grade. So this is, it's funny. Back to the Future 3 was only, like less than a year later, because that came out over the summer. And that's when Mikey was like, I'm going to be Mike now. Not really. To be honest with you, that's not true. You want to be perfectly honest with you? Most people call me Mike at school, at work, and in my family. I have some cousins who call me Mikey. But really what it is I have this group of friends, and really most of it's one family and like step family and in-law family, and it's this group of people that I've talked about many times on other podcasts. I do podcasts with some of them, Fine Movies, Fine Spirits, and I've known them since I was, some of them were at my 4th birthday, and just to say that I was Mikey then, and I'm a goddamn 45-year-old man, and I'm Mikey now. And it would seem weird for them to call me anything but Mikey. It sounds, if my friend were to call me Mike, it would sound awkward. See, this is the kind of tangents you can expect. Well, what am I here for? Back to the Future 2? The point is, folks, Back to the Future 2 came out when Mikey was in, it was talking in the third person back in November of 1989, and I was 13, and or he was, whatever, and that should be my new podcast name. Like I should start a show called instead of like, improv, they say yes and, for podcasting it's and My point is, I thought this was a summer movie, and it wasn't. There, boom, I said it. Now, I started taking notes today, and I have a tablet with an app that I can use a pen on now. It's not an iPad. I'm not one of those sophisticants. It's an Android tablet. Oh, the horror! But I started taking notes with it, and we'll see if I stick with it. I started taking like meticulous notes, like little bullet points. Then I just started writing words down. I wrote down laser discs. We'll get there. I want to focus today's episode kind of on part of 2015. And, I'm sure I'll go all over the place, and I'm sure I'll repeat myself many times this month. But it's funny because, as being alive today, 2015 is 7 years ago, okay, in our current timeline. Now, you could be listening to this in the future, and where you could say, oh my God, 2015 was 30 years ago. And this podcast was 23 years ago. And oh, wow, 23 years ago, that guy, the urn that my great uncle has, that's the guy from this show. Oh, wow. I guess, oh boy. I'm going dark. There's some darkness in this movie, but we're not there yet. So I'm going to go over some of my notes. And really it picks up right where the movie starts. The movie picks up right at the end of part one. You know, they Elizabeth shoehorn in the new Jennifer. Get that? I just came up with that. They Elizabeth shoehorned her in. I'm proud of that. So it's like, okay, this is the new Jennifer. You know her from Karate Kid and and Adventures with Babysitting, and maybe at Melrose Place. Was she at Melrose Place, or was that her brother? That's her brother, right? Anyway, the point is that she was already kind of a well-known 80s actress, and then they took her and tried to make her look unlike herself and more like this Claudia Wells version of Jennifer, and you know it's acceptable because she really holds no real importance in this movie. And I remember them reading something where it's like Gail and Zemeckis said, oh, we never planned to do a sequel. It was just kind of a fun little thing. Like they didn't have To Be Continued at the end of the original theatrical release. It was when the movie came out for home video, they added To Be Continued. I read somewhere that Michael J. Fox was like, what? To Be Continued? They're going to make a sequel? That's how we found out there were talks of a sequel. And even then, I was like, well, that was a kind of a funny little thing To Be Continued, but it's never going to happen. And there you see 4 years later, they made the sequel. And nowadays, you know, you could have 20 years between a movie, like they rebooted it and it's coming back and there's other ones. But I feel like when I was a kid, it felt interminably long between Back to the Future 1 and Back to the Future 2. Same thing with Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. I was like, what? This is like, they're doing it all this years later. This is crazy. And again, it's only 4 years. But one of the things they said was, you know, if we were really planning on a sequel, there's no way we would have put Jennifer in the car. And you could see that evident in this movie because, look, there's a lot of stuff I love in this movie. There's moments that make me chuckle. There's moments that make me smile. There's moments that give me a little bit of a chill, ooh, I love it. And then there's some real clunky stuff that's in there that felt like it was just kind of like draft one. I guess we'll just, I don't know, put her over here and do this. And little things that just were like, well, this was only done so this could get done, you know, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that happens in every story. Maybe that happened in the first Back to the Future, but it didn't feel so simplified. Like it felt like, oh, well, I mean, why would he, none of this would have happened if this didn't happen. Like Back to the Future 1, I don't want to compare constantly, but that was like, you know, a lot of, like, it just kind of happened. It was accidental. Accidentally things happened, and now they needed to get their way out of it. Whereas this one, they kind of made some bad choices that caused things to happen. And I guess, okay, people make bad choices, that's fine. But it wasn't like they were just solving a problem. They were causing problems that then they were creating problems that then they had to go solve. Anyway, right away, my first thought was, so Doc shows up, puts Jennifer in the car. He needs fuel, puts the everything in the Mr. Fusion, everything from the original, just redone, which I enjoy the original. I feel like in the original, Doc says, "Back to the future." In this one, he's like, "Where?" He goes, "Back to the future." Like I don't feel he gives the same line read good enough for me. That's me. And I could be wrong, but the one difference this time around is we see Biff. We see Biff come out, and I think he wanted to show Marty his new matchbooks because that's exciting, which they come into play later. But Biff comes out, and he's like, Marty. And then he looks, he's like, a flying DeLorean? What the hell's going on around here? Well, I'll ignore it for the next 30 years. My friends, if I were to go outside and see a flying DeLorean, you wouldn't, for the next 30 years, I'd be known as the nutcase who said, there's a goddamn flying DeLorean out there that's just, that is like crazy. And there's like, what the hell is happening now? It's like there's so many little things that don't make sense to me. So Marty, and I'm starting to like get too logical or overthink these things. It's not the point of these movies, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have a whole month to do this. So Biff sees this Marty, or sees the DeLorean fly away. And then Biff goes the next 30 years to become the old man he is today. When does that Marty in 1980 that flies away come back and get in the car accident? Now we see that happen in part 3, but like originally was the timeline that Doc doesn't come back. Okay, so Doc doesn't come back. Marty gets in the truck with Jennifer, then he gets in the accident. But Doc always comes back because we see that. So like Marty goes away into the future. Like to me, Doc should have been like, Marty McFly disappeared. No, because they had kids. So there is a timeline where they have kids. So that Marty at some point doesn't leave and has to come back. See what I mean? It's like, I feel like my nose is going to stop bleeding. And it's overthinking this stuff. But the main gist of my note is, what the hell did Biff do for 30 years after he saw a friggin' car flying? Like, and, you know, years later, he's like, he sees Goldie Wilson III does hover conversions. He would have been like, that's like the car I saw that flew. It does the same thing. What the hell? What the hell indeed? Biff should have ran right back in the house and been like, where'd Marty go? Where's Jennifer? What's going on? Mr. McFly, a car just flew away. And they would be like, now Biff, oh, something's wrong with you. That just makes too much sense. There, see, okay, there's the clunkiness number one. Never mind the whole something's got to be done about your kids. And this is in the original version, Marty, becomes like an old businessman. And I'm going to talk more about that. Not today. I'm not going to fill. We're only doing like half of 2015 today. We got a lot to talk about. And one line I wrote down is they really could have used roads. Because he's like, we don't have enough roads. He's like, well, we're going, we don't need roads. They don't need roads, but they could have used roads. They could have just driven on that road. And when they got to 2015, they would have been on that road and then just driven to Hill Valley. None of the flying, there's no reason to fly except Doc he was peacocking. He was showing off. There was no reason for them to fly. Again, at the end of part 1, it just looks like fun. But when you think about what we see in part 2, they're driving to Hilldale. There's roads. There's no reason for them to be flying everywhere. Especially because how far away is Hill Valley from, the downtown Hill Valley from Lion Estates? It can't be that far away. But I do, another thing in the first movie, again, I'm going to compare because what I have something to compare it to, the original. In the first movie, the opening credits are really serve the story. There's some little Easter eggs in there where you see the clock tower, like all these clocks and a clock tower clock, and you see all these inventions. You see the thing about the Brown Mansion being burned. You hear about the plutonium being stolen. You see all these little things that you don't realize at the time, but really are advancing the story. It's a smart little way of kind of throwing things at you that if you, upon the next viewing, you're like, oh, and maybe like eagle-eyed, smarter, more mature film viewers would have picked up all of that. But as a kid, you really weren't paying attention to that. And in Back to the Future 2, they have clouds. Why do they have clouds? They're flying through clouds. They for some reason, okay, you can go, it's space and time. You don't go, 1-to-1. You don't leave at 3:00 in the afternoon and show up at 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm very confused because when they get to the future, they're in the dark and then they land, they must have got there really early and then they land in Hill Valley and it's light. Now, they're not in space. They're not in orbit, so it shouldn't need to be dark. Again, it's 1989, so special effects wise, maybe it made more sense for it to be dark. I don't know. I just thought of that now. I didn't even write that note down. But I wrote down clouds, and then all of a sudden Jennifer realizes she's in a time machine. I like that. He's like, I don't know how to tell you, but you're in a time machine. No matter what I can say about this movie, I still love Chris Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd, I'm sorry, not one of those guys who's friends with him. Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox, they're still bringing it and fantastic with their performances in this movie. And then Doc, she's asking too many questions. So Doc uses his sleep-inducing alpha rhythm generator. I thought maybe this would be an acronym, which is SIARG, SIARG, which unless sleep is sleep-inducing, then it's just SARG, which again means nothing. I was hoping it would mean something. It doesn't. But Doc's like, this woman is asking too many questions. I must knock her out. I mean, that is to me a sign of, like, I don't know what to do with her. Like, they could have, a better written script could have involved her. Could have said, look, we're going to fill you in now, and you need to, like, help us. And that's it. That's it. But instead, she's a girl just asking too many questions, getting too frantic, worrying about her wedding, blah, 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 blah. And, it's, let's just get her out of the picture, which I definitely feel like if that came out nowadays, someone would be like, what the hell? Why is she even there? And you realize they didn't plan for it, and they didn't do themselves any service as how they dealt with it. As far as I'm concerned. Marty even says, then what did you bring her for? And that's what I'm saying. What did you bring her for? He's like, well, she saw the time machine. I couldn't risk, her not, I couldn't risk things. Like, okay, Doc, but you also flew the time machine in the middle of Lion Estates in the middle of the day. So you didn't care who saw it, which neighbor. Biff saw it. And because Biff saw it, you kind of, that I guess that started a little spark that lasted 30 years. But not very well planned out. So they pull into Hill Valley. They get off the exit on this, whatever they call it, the Spaceway, I think he called it. I forget. I'll watch it again 29 more times and let you know. And we see a new Hill Valley sign. I didn't realize this last time, but it says, please fly safely. A nice place to live, which I think the last Hill Valley sign said. And it says, ejection seats save lives. I wonder if seatbelts save lives is on the old one. I remember I did a whole I talked about that last year, but it's been a while. To be honest with you, after watching it for 31 straight days, I did not watch Back to the Future. I have not watched it since then. I write down, I love the practical effects in this movie. I love them. Even though they're like, it's a lot of times it's like, well, obviously that's a crane lifting the car and lowering it. They do a really excellent job of making things look seamless from the special effect. Maybe it's an animated green screen, whatever it was, to the practical effect of something's actually there. They do a great job with these little tricks of like splitting the screen using props like doors or car windows or street windows, street lights. I love how they do that stuff. I wrote down laser discs. That was one of the things when they parked in the alley and there was all these laser discs as garbage. And they were saying, look, Back to the Future 2 is already predicting that laser discs will be trashed. Okay, maybe. I mean, 1989, DVDs weren't a thing yet. Laser discs were a thing. I had a friend, Eric, who's listening right now, who former and future fan of Marchy McFly. I tweeted out that I go, did I just get stopped on the street? But someone asked me about Marchy McFly. Yes, I did. That was Eric. Hey, buddy, see you soon. But he's very busy working right now. So if he's listening to this, it's at like 3 a.m. and he's probably still working. But he had a laser disc. And I remember the only time I think I've ever seen laser discs was at his house. And I want to say we watched like a Guns N' Roses concert or a Metallica concert. I don't know. Anyway, Doc's regeneration. I do like. I actually quite enjoy the the little thing of Doc. I went to a rejuvenation clinic, got a change of blood. I've used the term change of blood all the time. I don't know why. That's just something that stuck with me. And I like it because I always thought, well, he doesn't look that different. And that's funny. But also they do take off some of the wrinkles. And remember, 1955 Doc was Chris Lloyd. 1985 Doc was Christopher. I did it again. Was Christopher Lloyd with some wrinkles and whiter hair. And with the rejuvenation, I'm not sure. This is better than rejuvenation. They're just like, now we don't have to worry about all these special effects on Christopher Lloyd. And now we prolong his life so he can be alive, 30 to 40 years in his life. Well, if he's alive in 30 to 40 years, I wrote down, well, where the hell is 2015 Doc Brown? We see Biff. We see all the McFLys. Well, not all the McFLys. We see the Marty's family and his parents, sort of. And we even see Goldie Wilson III. But we don't see Doc Brown. And I was thinking that's because he's a man out of time. Come on, Tesla fans, you know that song. My guess is he doesn't exist in 2015. He's a time traveler, and that's why he's like all over the place in the world. And it's in the original timeline, he goes back to 1885. So this 1985 Doc doesn't make it to 2015 because he's in 1885, right? Where he can live out all his rejuvenated years. But I wrote, there's the note. Jennifer out of the car is so dumb and makes no sense. There it is, folks. That's the dumbest thing of this entire movie. I've got to go intercept Marty Jr. You go pretend to be Marty Jr. and make sure to not listen to Griff. But let's put Jennifer in this alley here. It is dumb. It literally makes no sense, except now it allows them to go to meet the McFlys, and it allows them to leave the DeLorean just enough time for Biff to somehow, I don't want to talk about that. That's tomorrow talk, but it just leaves for Biff to get into some hijinks and screw everything up. So them leaving Jennifer outside of the car screws everything up. All of it. You could say Gray Sports Almanac is, but if Biff saw Gray Sports Almanac and said, what the hell is a time machine? And then they left, boom, doesn't matter because Biff is stuck in 2015 with this. There's nothing he can do about it. But the fact that they left Jennifer in an alley just kind of changes everything. And it is such a stupid decision that it bugged me, the fact like none of this needed to happen. Also, then I wrote down, just turn your pants inside out. So he's like, take out your pockets. Kids wear their pants inside out in the future. What? Like, I'm wearing my jeans right now. If I take my pocket, the pockets out, it looks like I have my pockets out. It doesn't look like my jeans are inside out. The jeans are very different. I mean, they're different on the inside. So it's like, how about we just flip them around and, just take 2 seconds and flip them upside down or inside out. That would make so much more sense. Bing, bang, boom. Oh my goodness gracious. This is going longer than I thought. I might turn this into a multi future version because I have 30 plus days. So, just turn the pants inside out. I wrote this down because when they are in the alley, I think it says something about Fusion Industries, which is where I'm assuming where Doc got the Mr. Fusion. But who installed the Mr. Fusion on Doc's car? And Doc must have, right? Like how long he was there? How long was he in the future? there's so many questions that I have that don't quite make sense when you really think about them. And you don't have to really think about them. This is not one of these movies that you're supposed to really need to think about. It's just a fun adventure. But I'm here to think about them. Like, who installed the Mr. Fusion on Doc's thing? Doc did, right? I'm guessing he must have learned how to do it. Who did the hover conversion? And the hover conversion is not a big deal. Obviously, Goldie Wilson III did that. But, like, if he had someone install it on his car, like, what else do people use these Mr. Fusions on their cars for? Is this the first time one was used? Very confusing. And, like, I don't know. Doc does say, Griff is a little weird once because of his bionic implants. And that explained his weird tics. That, he's like, the way he talked, it was just annoying. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to stop there today. I'm already at like over a half hour. I did not expect to talk this long about this. But at this point, that's when Marty steps out into downtown Hill Valley, into the future. The future, which I'll just say this. I'll say it now in case I forget. They really overthought the future. And by that I mean they made people look too old for 30 years. Think about it. It's been well past 30 years since those movies come out. And nobody looks like what they look like. They overshot their thought of what quote unquote the future is. It was like, if you said 100 years in the future, okay, maybe it looks like the Jetsons. Maybe. It doesn't, but maybe. And again, think about this. From 85 to 30, it's 15 years. 30 years. Like from 80 to 50, from 55 to 85, was it that different that you thought from 85 to 2015, everything would be space aged? It's funny because you could walk down the street right now. If you walk by someone, you could think it's 1985 until like people don't look that different. Not every single thing is different. But in Back to the Future 2's 2015, it kind of, not everything's different, but it's like, you're living in a different world, in a future world where everything you do differently, I feel like, because, not everything you do, but most of the things you do are different because you're in the future. But that, my friends, is tomorrow talk, right? So I think we did it today. I think I nailed it. I think I nailed some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. One of the things that bothered me. There will be more. I love this movie. I do. I said yesterday, I think I like this movie. I love this movie. Flaws and all. There's so much to enjoy. And but it's also fun to pick it apart. There's movies that are so perfect that you can't pick them apart. And those are Back to the Future and Jaws. I can't pick those apart. This one, you can pick apart. I feel like you could pick this one apart more than the third one. I feel like this one was going to be a lot more like, well, what, huh? What? Where the third one, I'm just going to like sit back and enjoy the ride because it's been very long since I've watched that one. But that's next year. We still have 29 more days to go talking about Back to the Future 2. And I hope you stay along with me for the entire ride. And if you do, well, I really have nothing to promise you. But if you do, you have my appreciation and my admiration and my somethingation. So I just want to say thank you. The fact you're here for day 2 shows that, we just might keep you for all 31 days. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing. Remember, you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Geek Mentality. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. The website is fansnotexperts.com. The podcast is Geek Mentality. And this is Marchy McFly 2. Until tomorrow, my friends, here is my theme song. This is my podcast, I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans not experts.